What do CEOs need to know about sales these days? A lot. Outdated sales strategies and tactics plague most companies today. Listen to what innovative CEOs and experts have to say about how to change all that with Sales Talk for CEOs. Welcome to Sales Talk for CEOs. What if you could increase your revenue through your reputation in 1 hour a week? As a CEO, you'd do that, right? Of course you would. And if you're following me on LinkedIn, you know that I talk about building reputation and credibility through sharing your thoughts and ideas on LinkedIn, and of course, other places online, to draw people to your company who can buy from you, right? To draw your ideal audience to you, like build a tribe. I talk about this a lot because it's really important. And so I'm going to keep talking about it. And today, my guest, Brandon Lee, is an expert in personal branding and reputation building for CEOs to create more sales opportunities. So not just be out there to be out there, right? To create more sales opportunities, not for you to close CEOs, but for your salespeople to close. So we're going to have a great conversation. Brandon learned some of this the hard way, and I think some of you are too, but he figured it out and he decided to go all in. So we're going to have a conversation that's going to leave you with some ideas and things that you can do right away to build your brand and reputation in 1 hour a week and drive sales for your company. Welcome, Brandon.
Hey, thanks, Alice. I'm so excited to be on with you.
Well, I'm sure that this conversation could go on and on and on, but I'm going to try to keep it into podcast time for us.
Yes.
But let's start with just like, all right, how did you become an expert in this and why?
Oh, gosh. Well, I failed. I mean, that was really it. I've been fortunate in that I started and sold a few companies, and I thought I had my playbook, like this is the way you do things.
Yeah.
And I started a company in 2018, and it didn't work. Our outreach, like good product, good service, everything was good. We could not get enough pipeline, and we weren't converting enough people. And I kept going in like, is it the sales process? Is it this? Is it that? And the bottom line was it took us a lot longer to get pipeline, and it was a lot harder. It was a lot more expensive. And eventually I don't build businesses on private equity or funding. That was money out of my own pocket. And finally my wife and I looked at each other and were like, this is new, but we can't keep doing this. Like we can't keep putting money in here. And so I shut it down, and it was a very expensive lesson, but it made me look up and go, gosh, maybe there is something to this LinkedIn personal branding thing that I've kind of neglected. And, here we are 7 years later.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think that it's really hard when we start a company and we built our sales a certain way and it really, really worked, right? Like way back in the day, in the 90s when I was with Miller Hyman, we had it down, right? We had a rhythm. We sent out direct mail. We made calls right out of this big red book, right? Go down and call those VPs of sales, right? And it worked because people picked up their phone back then and I could actually talk to them. So that worked really, really well. But then things changed, right? Then we had to figure out email came, right? So it was no more direct mail. We were now going to use email, and then things changed again, right? And then the internet became so big, and then LinkedIn started to become, something in YouTube, and all of these things happened. And then buyers were changing their behaviors on us, right? So if we keep using those methods from the 90s, oh my gosh, even if we keep using those methods, from 5 years ago, 3 years ago, they just don't work anymore. We have to keep rolling with the times and changing. And I know that's so hard for a lot of people, but you did it. You figured it out a number of years ago, and then you got on this bandwagon. You're like, okay, other CEOs can do this too, and they can drive revenue. So let's talk about that. Now you have this, claim to generate revenue, right? Drive traffic through your reputation. And you say you can do it in only 1 hour a week, which is amazing, right? Because I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. But tell us about how you came up with this idea to help CEOs do this in 1 hour a week, and tell us what they do.
Yeah, so it was a little bit of a long process. So I jumped into LinkedIn. I'm like, okay, I got to figure this out. I paid a lot of money with different coaches and all that. Some of them were garbage. Some of them learned some things, just like the rest of us when it comes to LinkedIn. But what I started to learn was I had to create content, and I had to go comment on other people's content, because the big shift for me, and if a lot of CEOs could just get this shift, it would give them an aha moment. Looking at LinkedIn, number one, it's not a place for job seekers only. It's become a full-fledged networking, social platform. The second thing is, if you look at it more like a networking event instead of, social media, right? It is a digital 24-hour a day, 7-day a week networking event. Think about it this way. You go to a networking event or a trade show and the cocktail party the night before. Everybody's there for a purpose. They're all in the same industry. Everybody's wearing a name tag with their name, their company name, and a lot of times their title. You can see everybody, and you get to walk around the room and start to introduce yourself to people, join conversations, and start to build connections or rapport, or get to meet people and let them get to meet you. If you look at LinkedIn that way, then all of a sudden it should be this aha moment of, oh, there's so much more that I could be doing here.
Yeah, I agree with you about that. It is really all about networking, but then there are those CEOs who don't want to get out and network either. So I understand, right? But if you think, well, I'm an introvert, I don't like to go in person and network, it's easier on LinkedIn because you don't actually have to have a verbal conversation with someone. You can think about what you're going to write before you write it, where it's a little harder, right? In person. Both are super important for CEOs. Don't get me wrong. I think you should all be out there networking in person with the right people, but you've got to network online too. And Brandon, I think you've heard me say this before, but I also liken it to networking, but even more so to a trade show, because a lot of the CEOs do go to trade shows with their teams. Okay, you have a booth. If that booth was completely empty and all these gorgeous booths were around it, would anyone come up to your booth? No, right? They'd be like, walk on by. Same with the way your company looks on LinkedIn. Do they have a fantastic booth? Like, are their profiles set up right? Do you have, good graphics? Do you have interesting information? Are they posting things? Because now, if you have a great booth, that's only part of it, right? Now, when people walk up to the booth, there has to be some interesting conversation, some interesting topics. So even if you're on LinkedIn, it's not enough, right? Now you got to get those conversations started. So you have to have interesting topics. It's just like at a trade show. If people walk up to your booth and all you did was pitch them, they'd walk away. So that's where the great content and video and everything else comes in. So I think those kinds of analogies, all of you listening out there, that's what LinkedIn really is. And it's there 24/7. And most of the people, not everyone you want to sell to is there. Let's say, but 50% of them are there, right? So go get those. And trust me, if you're not, your competitors are, right, Brandon?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you nailed it. And Alice, you and I say something very similar. You call CEOs who aren't on LinkedIn sales preventers. And I tell them, hey, if you're a sales leader, a CEO, and you're not building your reputation on LinkedIn, you're leaving millions of dollars on the table, and you're leaving a huge door open for your competition. Because what we do know is when leaders are using LinkedIn as a networking activity, as a trade show, if they're looking at it through that lens, and they grow their reputation, it elevates everything in the business. HR recruits better. Sales builds more pipeline. Just if you're listening to this and you got you're doing one of these because you think I'm crazy, like I was you before, and I get it. This is hard. It's different. But think about if, and hear me out, because I know initially a lot of CEOs go, well, wait, it's different. Hear me out.
Yeah. I was just going to say, so let's talk about some of the reasons they don't do it or resist it, or like, let's really go there and dig in, because I think when you hear it out loud, it sort of doesn't make any sense anymore. But so what are these things?
Yeah, so I talk about five myths that CEOs believe that prevent them from using social media. And let's be honest, what it is they're scared and they create these beliefs that give them a good excuse to say no.
Yeah, they're scared, or they're saying, well, I really don't have time. And I agree with them. Some of them really don't have time, but if they knew exactly what to do, they would make the time because it wouldn't be
Right.
that hard. So it is coming out of like fear of the unknown.
Right. And we can get to the 1 hour. I know you asked me that question and I laid a foundation, but we'll get to the
We'll
1 hour.
get back to it.
Yeah, but one of the big beliefs that CEOs have, and I think this one is more legit than the others, is they believe that social media is self-promotion and they don't promote themselves. Now, it makes sense, right? You think about influencers, you think about people on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and they're doing their duck face and it's very me. The way I didn't grow into being the CEO of this company by promoting myself. Like our culture is about serving others, and true. But you got to look at it this way. Social media is not self-promotion. It's promoting your brand through your CEO voice. And if you pause and think about, if I say the company Apple, who did you immediately think about?
Steve Jobs, of course.
Right. And if I say the company Microsoft, who do you think
Bill
about?
Gates, of course.
Right? If somebody says your company name, do they immediately think about you? And if they don't, you're missing a huge opportunity, because unlike what Steve Jobs and Bill Gates did back in their time with millions of dollars of personal PR budgets, we can do it on LinkedIn. A lot less expensive and a lot quicker and a lot easier. And it's targeted to our industry.
Right. And you don't have to talk about yourself. Like that's not what we're doing on LinkedIn. Although sometimes I do talk about myself because it's relevant in the context of the people who I am serving. The story may be relevant to them, so then I might, but it really isn't sharing about yourself personally. It's sharing thoughts that help the people in that industry think differently and move forward. Right. So if you think of it like that, then I think you can get your arms around it, right? Like as a CEO, I know what I do really well. I know what our company does, and I know how it helps people. There's a problem out there that people are trying to solve, then they can come to you to get a solution. Talk about those problems and how to solve them. And that's where you're really giving to people. So solve it for them, whether they buy your product or not. Like, here's some things you can do. Here's 3 different things you can do. One of them might be buying the product, but the other 2 are things they can do on their own, or sharing how something in the industry has changed and how we all in this industry need to adapt around it. So I think those kinds of content pieces will make CEOs feel more comfortable when they know that's what kind of thing they should be sharing.
Yeah. 4 simple ways to attract content, and then a bonus one. Okay. So these are really important. Number 1 is, if you just create content around what are you thinking inside your industry right now? You're the CEO of a company. You have insights, you have experience. What are you thinking? What are you thinking about when it comes to your industry or your company or your customers or your competitors? That's great content. People care about it. Number 2, what are you observing? What do you observe is going on? Okay. What do you feel? We're not supposed to get into feelings, but what are you feeling about what's going on in your industry or with your customers? And then the 4th one is, what are you hearing? What are people talking about? If you just focus on those 4 things and start creating content around it, it's really easy. The bonus one is this. How many times, Alice, have you had a conversation with somebody or couple people and you thought, oh my gosh, I wish we could have recorded this and shared it with our network.
Oh my gosh, every day.
Right. So what do? Here's your 1 hour a week. Here's how you do this 1 hour a week. Do a live show and podcast, bring on guests, have a chat for 45 minutes to an hour, and you bottle it up because you record it, and then you use it. Yeah, there's a 45-minute or an hour episode, and you got video, and you can push it to the podcast, and people can listen to it. But let's take a look at what you have here. You have this content gold mine now that can be broken up into so many pieces. I mean, we break one show up into 28 different pieces. 28 different pieces of content, and use different ways. We use it for email. We use it for call scripts. We use it for newsletters. We use it for blog articles. We use it for LinkedIn newsletters. We use it for LinkedIn posts. Like, we use it for all these different ways. And you're really taking about an hour a week of your precious CEO time. And I say that sincerely, but you're having a conversation that you have to believe lots of people out there, your employees, your partners, your customers, would love to be the fly on that wall listening to what's going on, because they can learn so much from you, and they want to learn so much from you, but you got to give them opportunities to do that.
Yeah, those are some really great ideas on the content piece. And, we'll get some of that stuff in the show notes too. Let's return to the myths, right? So we started with one, right? And they don't want to be, promoting themselves. And we've just cleared that up. You're not promoting yourself. You're promoting the brand through your voice. And there's so many great things to talk about. Okay, what's another reason they don't do it?
Yeah, another one is we've tried LinkedIn before and it didn't work. And that's really what I hear a lot of times. Yeah, Brandon, I know we've tried LinkedIn before, it didn't work. Okay, the pause is, what did you try? Carson Hetty, who's one of the co-hosts on my show, we talk about this a lot. Like, this isn't if you build it, they will come. Like, you have to build it and you have to work it. It's not like you go, and generally with a lot of CEOs, when I dig down deep, they paid somebody to come in and they had a half day or a full day session, and they updated everybody's LinkedIn profiles, do a profile makeover, which is great. But that alone is not going to start making POs magically.
Right. That's like building your trade show booth and setting it up, but then there's nobody in the booth or nobody to have a good conversation with. There's, just pitching, right? So like, just having the booth is not enough.
Yeah. And I think, let's put ourselves in a lot of these leaders' shoes. They're busy. They've got to manage cash flow. They've made mistakes. They've spent money on things in the past that didn't work out. They feel bad about it. They feel dumb. They feel whatever. They're scared to spend good money on stupid things. And they got burned before. And, there's a lot of companies out there hawking crappy LinkedIn stuff, and they're nervous. And so it's really easy for them to go, we tried it. It didn't work. Don't talk to me about it anymore. Look, we're 5 years out of COVID now. The world was changing prior to COVID because, as you said earlier, Alice, buyer behavior has changed. Cold calling worked for a long time because sellers were the source of information, and buyers would answer calls because they wanted the information.
Exactly.
As email and Google and the internet and social media and everything coming to us right here on our phone, buyers don't need sellers anymore. The information's already coming to them in different ways. And so we have to be different. And with everything changing, what you may have done 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, LinkedIn is different. And the way people are using it is different.
Yeah, 100%. I do want to say this, though, about people not needing salespeople. In a complex business to business sale, they do still need salespeople. They might think they don't. And that's part of the problem that we have to solve for again today, right? they think they don't need salespeople because they can get all this information and they can look at all these different websites and they can compare and they can use Google and they can use ChatGPT and they can use Perplexity and on and on and on, right? So even more so, they're thinking, I don't need a salesperson. I'm asked Perplexity what I should buy, right? Or I ask my friends what I should buy. And all of those are good. But in the end, in a business complex sale, we have to help the buyer be confident in their decision, right? And so we have to show up online, the CEOs, the salespeople, the customer success, the subject matter experts, everyone who works at your company, as someone you can trust, who has credibility and who can advise and help the customer feel confident. I mean, Brett Adamson talks about this all the time. In fact, he has a new book on it where he's talking about our role is to build the customer confidence. If you are not online showing up, if you are not on LinkedIn showing up with great content that makes people feel confident in your company, those buyers will continue to think they don't need a seller, and they'll continue to stay away, right? And why would you have that? Why not turn the tide and make them feel comfortable and confident, right? Because you're going to help them, right? And I always say, you've heard me a million times, sales is a helping profession. So let's get out there and help.
Yeah. Alice, where I want to clarify one thing, because I agree with you that buyers do need sellers. But when we're talking at the prospecting stage, buyers don't believe they need to take sellers' cold calls because they can go do enough research on their own to determine who they want to talk to begin with.
Yeah,
so I
100%.
agree with you, but I disagree to split that hair. And that's where I focus on, is that pipeline building stage. How do you get buyers to want to talk with you or your company? Well, they have to know you. Like I love to ask this question, and I ask it with CEOs and people at various levels in a company. Every morning, we all have the unfortunate thing of having a lot of email in our inbox that we don't want. We don't want to deal with it. We don't care about it. So you say, your inbox is this big. How do you get it to this big? Like, how do you humanly make it more manageable? Well, I'll ask you that question. What do you do when you first look at your inbox in the morning? How do you make it more manageable for you?
It's already cleaned out by my chief of staff. She only leaves the things that I absolutely have to deal with there. So I'm probably not the typical.
Okay. So let me ask this question. Well, let me just answer it then.
Yeah.
What I hear most people say, they'll get to it in different ways, but it comes down to, if I don't recognize the name, it's probably not important to me. So they'll go down and look at names and go, anyone they don't know, they'll check, mass delete, and shrink it down, and then start to address the that are important to them.
Absolutely. And that is absolutely right. And if you don't warm it up somehow, so someone's expecting your email, right? If you don't figure out a way, even when you have a great subject line, I don't recognize your name, I just am most likely going to delete it. Or in my case, Britta's going to delete it.
Right. Well, and look, I like to say these two things, and they're not the most quantifiable data points in the world, but let me explain it. Whether it's an email, it's a call, it's seeing you at a trade show or anything, they encounter you. If you use LinkedIn well, consistently, and people say, I feel like I already know you because I see you all the time on LinkedIn, there's your win. There's a big win. I have a client recently, we're doing some content around their show content around a trade show. And we're doing targeted ads on LinkedIn with some of these interviews on their show, promoting their booth at this event. And I kept telling the CEO, like, what's going to happen is people are going to walk into your booth and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I've seen you guys all over my phone, or I see you all over LinkedIn. And he was like, oh, yeah. Well, after like the third person walked in and was like, oh, I see you. I've been seeing you guys all over LinkedIn. Tell me more what you do. He looked over at me. He's like, oh my gosh, you were serious. It's kind of a,
It's so funny that you tell that story because I have an identical story with a CEO who just didn't believe. And then they were at a show and the same thing happened. People were walking up to him and telling him, and he came back to me. He's like, unbelievable. I'm like, that's what it's supposed to happen. It's proof, right? Proof that this works.
One of my clients' companies, Chris Dunn, he's head of business development for Blue Hive Exhibits, and he shared this story with us. He sent a cold email out, and it was somebody in Utah, I believe, and the guy replied to him and said, "Oh yeah, Chris, let's get on the phone. I feel like I already know you because of all the stuff you post on LinkedIn."
Yeah.
Let's break that down. Like, let's peel the onion layer a little bit. If he wasn't on LinkedIn consistently and talking, adding value, and I'm a big believer that we have to bring our humanity into LinkedIn because our humanity is our big differentiator. It's the way humans will categorize in their brains and remember people. Chris does stuff with his morning walks with his dog, Bart and the dog, and people remember him because of Bart and the dog. Other than that, he's just another trade show guy, right? So his trade show content has to be spot on and good, but bringing a little bit of a differentiator of your humanity really helps us stay top of mind and be remembered. And this guy responded to him and said, "Oh yeah, I feel like I already know you from all your work on LinkedIn. Hey, when we jump on a call, am I going to see Bart and the dog?"
Right.
That is huge. Yeah. And it's the same thing. We started talking about looking at LinkedIn through the lens of a networking event or, networking at a trade show. When we first start engaging with people in real life, number one, we don't go straight to business because that's rude and it's not going to advance it. But what we normally do at the beginning is we start looking for commonality so that we can connect with people.
Oh my gosh. And LinkedIn makes it so easy, right? Because if people have a good profile up and tell a little bit about themselves, if they're posting, which many people do, or even if they're just liking and commenting, you can learn a lot about them.
Yes. Yeah. So I always tell this, and it amazes me how many times it just doesn't create any additional anything. In my about section, at the very bottom, I wrote, because I talk a little bit about me, at the very bottom, I said, if you message me anything about Manchester United, my favorite soccer team, football team, properly speaking, Pinot Noirs from Oregon, or hiking or Jeeps, which is my passions, I will respond to your message. Simple. You know how many times I've had that up there for almost 2 years now? You know how many times I've heard it?
I'm going to say 0 or 1.
Twice.
Okay.
One person sent me a message, said, "Hey, I have nothing to sell you, but I'm also a Manchester United fan. I want to tell you I saw that in your about section." That was the one message. The other message was similar. I've opened the door. I'm the CEO of a company. I've opened the door for salespeople to get a call with me by just giving that little bit twice in almost 2 years. What is that to you?
Oh my gosh. It's just like, this is like my pet peeve, right? Like, you gave it to him, right? But even if you didn't take a minute, like Samantha McKenna and I, there's this long string going on LinkedIn about this. She proposed, like, instead of, "Oh, I'm impressed with your LinkedIn profile, I'm expanding my network." Like, I don't care, like, are you kidding me? Right? She giving something to say that shows me that you know me. You took a minute to see who I am and you wrote something versus just, volume, sending out the same exact connection request over and over again and getting, maybe people connect with you, but then what? right?
Right.
When you take a minute to write something that matters and then that person connects with you, a dialogue begins, right? Because that's networking. It's not just about showing up, it's about getting the conversation going because you don't know. Maybe they could buy for you, maybe they could refer to you, maybe they're going to be your next best employee, maybe they're going to introduce you to someone who can fund your company. I mean, you just have no idea, right? So it's really important to make this network something that is strong and leverageable, right? You know the people in the network. Yeah, I have over 20,000 connections. I don't know all of them personally, but I always strike up a little conversation in the beginning so I can go back and see, well, how well do I know this person? Have I talked to them? Have I shared content with them? Do I have the right? Have I earned the right to ask them to introduce me to someone? Now, I'm not perfect at it either. So there's probably some people in my connections that I have no idea, but a lot of them I do because I took that time, right? So when you think about how strong that is, and when you have salespeople who are having to cold call instead of having an introduction, why wouldn't you get everybody on LinkedIn, everybody connected, and everybody sharing introductions within your own company, let alone all the magic that can happen with the connections that they actually build a relationship with and nurture and stay in touch with, right?
Yeah, I mean, here's a story for CEOs to be thinking about. And this one happens to be my story, which doesn't make it any stronger or any weaker. But I was at the airport, had my AirPods in, pounding away an email before I got on my plane, and I got a tap on my shoulder. And I look up, and there's a woman. She goes, "Brandon," and I go, "Hey." I had no idea who she was. And I stood up and she gives me a hug and I hug her and I'm excited, but I'm thinking the whole time, I don't know who she is. And she goes, "Natalie from LinkedIn." I go, "Oh, Natalie." And I'm going through it. And then she's like, "Oh, this, and then I'm connecting dots. And then she's like, "I have several clients I need to refer to your company. They need what you do. I'm late for my plane. Let me run. Let's connect and grab coffee in the next week or two." Well, we did. And now I have a partner who sends referrals to my company. Again, let's peel the onion. My consistency with my content, my show, my commenting and engaging with other people keeps my reputation top of mind, keeps it growing. She remembered me. To be honest, if I walked past her in the airport, I wouldn't have known who she was. But she remembered me, tapped me on the shoulder, and here we are with several $100,000 in new revenue coming our way.
Yeah, I have countless stories like that, but I have one from just last month. I was in New Orleans for the National Automobile Dealer Association meeting, huge convention with one of my clients, helping them out. They had a ginormous, beautiful booth. And so I'm there with them and I get a text message from my sister because, of course, I had posted. Sorry, I left that part out. So I'm there and I posted I'm in New Orleans, and it was during what everybody was calling Snowla because it snowed in New Orleans and it made it really difficult. The show had to start a day later, la la la. But anyway, I had posted. Someone on LinkedIn that I had been connected with ends up being like more of a friend of my sister's actually than mine, but I knew her. And she texted my sister and said, "Your sister is in New Orleans and I'm right near the convention center and I really want to meet her. Can you, let her know?" Because of course I was checking LinkedIn very sparsely because I was at a show, right? And I was busy. Anyway, so I get this text from my sister, "Hey, Renee lives right near there and she really wants to meet you. Can you step out for coffee or whatever?" So I'm like, yeah, I get online, I message her, give her through LinkedIn, give her my cell phone number. And she came to the convention center and sat with me and had coffee. I mean, it was amazing. And then while we were talking, we figured out like 3 ways we could help each other's companies. So, I mean, and I have more of these stories. They're just so powerful, right? But let's go back for a minute because we're getting close to the end of our time, and I want to make sure that we complete this series of reasons that CEOs don't, right? Now let's repeat them because we've talked about a lot of things. So the first one is they think they have to promote themselves, but it's really not about that. The second one is
I've tried LinkedIn before and it didn't work.
Okay. The third one is?
The third one is I don't really have anything valuable to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And keep going from there.
Yeah. So the fourth one is that social media is for kids. It doesn't have a serious business value. And the fifth one, which it still blows me away that I hear it, is LinkedIn is for job seekers, and I'm not looking for a job.
Yeah, that's old. It was originally, I think, built for that,
Yes.
but definitely not anymore, right? It's definitely a platform to network and share content and help people.
Yeah.
So, okay, if any of those were your reasons for not being on LinkedIn, you can just put those aside now because we've given you tons of ideas and things that you can actually do, right?
Yeah.
So that those cannot be your excuses anymore. And your salespeople will love you. They may already love you, but they'll love you even more if you have a great network that can help them get connected to the people they need to get connected with without having to cold call them. You and everyone on your team can help with that, right?
Yeah, everything you're saying there, Liz, look, reputation is the new demand generation. CEOs, like if you're a CEO in the 21st century, which you are, and you're not leveraging the most powerful, important business networking tool in the 21st century, which is LinkedIn, shame on you. It should be a part of every CEO job description now, that not only are you the CEO, but you are the chief influence officer. If you are not taking that job on serious, you are letting your company down. You are leaving millions of dollars on the table. You're making it more difficult for sales to create pipeline. You're making it more difficult for HR to do recruiting, because humans connect better with human beings. We've always known that. And you can be that chief human being of your company and a chief influencer and let people know your brand through your voice.
Oh gosh, yeah. And look, to just break it down to how easy it is, because everybody out there is probably, I just can't, I don't know where to start, I don't know how, like, it's so many things, too much time, blah, blah, blah. Literally, in 1 hour a week, you could either write a post, or you could give someone an idea and they can write a post and you can edit it, or you could talk to ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or any of those things and tell it your idea and say, please write this into a LinkedIn post. That probably will take an hour the first or second time you do it, but after that, it'll be so fast you won't believe it. So that would be a quick and easy way for you to get started. Just once a week, sharing something, a thought, the kinds of thoughts we were talking about earlier that have to do with your industry, solving a problem, things that people are talking about, right? Or you could make a video. You could simply just hold your iPhone up and talk to it, right? And post that natively on LinkedIn. Or you could do what Brandon was suggesting, which is have someone interview you live on LinkedIn once a week, and you're just talking about the things that you learned or did or heard this week that helped other people.
Or even better, you interview people in your industry and just have a chat with them about the industry. I mean, it's called a show.
Right. It's a show. You can interview people too. So those are some very, very simple, easy ways. And your marketing department can help you, or you can outsource this, right? You don't have to feel like you're alone in it.
Yeah, look, doing a live show and podcast, it's going to cost you somewhere between 5 to 10 grand a month to do what we're talking. Consistent, use the content, spread it out, use it in email, use it in newsletters and all that. And I know we all break this down in sales really easy. What's an average deal size for you?
Right.
We have a client now, the Research Associates, and their founder, Melody, has over $1 million in really good qualified pipeline in about 4.5 to 5 months, just by focusing on building her personal brand. Yeah. And it's individual videos of her doing the things that we just talked about. What are you observing, Melody? What are you feeling is going on in the industry? What are you hearing? What are you thinking about? And turning those into videos, and then hosting a show and talking to other people in the industry And, I mean, you and I both know this, with the biggest episode strategy that I recommend to people is get guests who bring new network to you. Right? That's why, Alice, you've been a guest on my show. I'm like, oh, I love Alice, and people love Alice, and people know Alice. Let's have Alice as a guest on my show. And now I get exposed into your network, and now we're reciprocating. I'm on your show, and we are exposing each other's networks to each other. And you just have a chat.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
simple.
It seems so simple, but I know it's hard to get started. But we've given you lots of ways for practically free. It could be just your time. I mean, time is money, but your time to do this, or getting somebody on your own team internally to help you, outsourcing it to someone, or going big and really producing something that makes sense for you, your company, and your industry. So, oh my gosh, Brandon, wow, we could continue on, but we will wrap it up here. I cannot thank you enough for helping with this topic, because, we're both so passionate about it. And I think that comes through to everyone. Now, in case somebody does want to find you, how can they find you?
Thank you. LinkedIn, go figure. LinkedIn is the best. It's the easiest one.
Yeah, but pause there, because if they send you a connection request, they have to say that they heard you on my show, or you're not accepted, right?
That's right. That's right. Tell me you heard it on Alice's show. And if you do your homework and reference what the little nugget that I threw in there in my about section. And then, if you want to learn more, I mean, a lot of my content, my resources are on my featured section of LinkedIn. You can also go to my company page, which is getfistbumps.com. And we have a resources section there, all kinds of PDFs and downloads and how-tos and all that type of stuff. But look, it's social media. Send me a message if I can help you, and let's have a chat. I may send you a link to an episode or something else, but definitely here to help people understand it. And especially I found, the Gen X to baby boomers that have been leading companies for a while, this is a really, really hard transition. And a lot of them, I want to help them not make the same mistake that I did, which was I didn't adapt quick enough, and it cost me millions in a failed company. Don't be that company. In the end of 2024, from November, December, I can't tell you how many times I got calls and messages from people, CEOs, a little bit in that Gen X and baby boomer age, saying, hey, we need to level up LinkedIn fast. We don't know what we're doing, and all of our other channels are drying up and killing us. What do we do?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, gosh, thanks again for being on the show. So much great information. And I'm sure you and I will be talking really soon.
Of course. Thank you, Alice, so much. Appreciate you having me.
Okay. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.